Question 4, Mr. Chan Hak-kan. President, it has been reported that the smuggling of animals into Hong Kong has become an increasingly serious issue in recent years. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. As it has been reported that there are quite a number of messages on mainland social media and online shopping platforms advertising the cross-boundary sale of animals using gimmicks such as the provision of pet consignment, quarantine-free and same-day delivery to attract customers, whether the government has worked closely with these platforms to strengthen intelligence exchange so as to swiftly take down non-compliant content so as to combat smuggling of animals, if so, the details, if not the reasons for that. 2. Given that, according to government information, the AFCD received 377 complaints in relation to animal trading and breeding activities last year, yet there were only 26 cases of successful prosecutions for breach of licensing conditions. Of the reasons for that, among those complaints, the number of cases involving animal smuggling and the number of convictions. 3. Of the following information regarding animal smuggling cases: 1. The number of cases involving the illegal import of cats and dogs so far this year and the number of cats and dogs involved. 2. The average time taken from enforcement to the conclusion of court proceedings in animal smuggling cases. And 3. The number of confiscated animals that have been adopted and the relevant percentage. And 4. The resources or funding provided by the government to organizations responsible for offering temporary shelter and adoption of confiscated animals. Secretary for Environment and Ecology. President, illegal animal smuggling and trading activities not only endanger animal health, but also pose a significant risk to public health and safety in Hong Kong. To this end, the government adopts a multi-pronged strategy to combat these illegal activities through legislative regulation, inspection, enforcement, intelligence sharing, as well as publicity and education. We continuously review and enhance the effectiveness of these measures to tackle the ever-changing smuggling and trading methods, thereby safeguarding public and animal health. With regard to the importation of animals, under the Public Health Animals and Birds Regulations Cap 139A and the Rabies Regulation Cap 421A, any person who imports animals without a permit is liable to a maximum fine of $50,000 and imprisonment for 1 year. As for animal trading, the AFCD, or the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department, strictly regulates the operations of physical shops, online animal sellers, and dog breeding premises under the Public Health Animals and Birds Trading and Breeding Regulations, and that's Cap 139B. It requires license holders to comply with license conditions and codes of practice, including the proper care of animals, the administration of vaccinations, and the provision of proof of the animal's lawful origin, to ensure that the animals are in good health. Any person selling animals without a license is liable to a maximum fine of $100,000, while a breach of license or permit conditions is punishable by a maximum fine of $50,000. In response to the questions raised by Dr. Gary Chan, the following consultation with the Security Bureau, our reply is as follows. 1. To tackle illegal animal trading on online platforms, AFCD has set up a dedicated investigation team to conduct proactive investigations, including the regular monitoring of online adverts for sale and breeding of animals. Upon receiving complaints or detecting suspicious cases, the dedicated team will immediately launch in-depth investigations, including deploying undercover operations to gather evidence. At the same time, AFCD has established a close intelligence sharing mechanism with the Customs and Excise Department to enhance the effectiveness of monitoring online violations and strengthen joint enforcement efforts. Regarding claims by certain mainland online sellers that they can deliver animals such as cats and dogs to Hong Kong without quarantine, we must solemnly point out that such acts constitute animal smuggling. In order to set the record straight, in fact, Since last year, AFCD has proactively requested assistance from mainland regulatory authorities and the heads of major mainland social media platforms to combat smuggling activities. We've received positive responses. Mainland regulatory authorities are actively exploring ways to strengthen supervision and enforcement against these platforms. Mainland social media platforms will strictly review suspicious accounts and remove non-compliant content at AFCD's request. Furthermore, AFCD's quarantine detection dogs carry out detection operations daily at various locations, including Hong Kong International Airport, ML Center, and various import and export control points. The department also conducts targeted joint enforcement operations with the CNED at the airport and major land border control points. It continues to deepen intelligence exchange and joint operations with mainland and overseas law enforcement agencies. 2. AFCD has been conducting regular inspections and surprise checks on licensed animal trading and breeding premises. Where there is evidence of non-compliance, AFCD will initiate prosecution. In 2025, AFCD received 377 complaints concerning illegal sale of breeding of animals. 103 cases were substantiated after investigation, of which 65 resulted in successful prosecutions. These included 39 cases of selling animals without a valid license or permit and 26 cases of breaching conditions. None of the above complaint cases involved illegal animal smuggling. 3. As at the end of May, the government has successfully detected 11 cases of illegal import of cats and dogs involving 21 animals, comprising 18 cats and 3 dogs. Law enforcement agencies are currently conducting investigations and gathering evidence. We will initiate prosecution against the persons involved once sufficient evidence is secured. In 2025, cases involving the smuggling of animals took an average of roughly 5 months from the time of enforcement to the conclusion of court proceedings, a period encompassing necessary legal procedures, including evidence collection, formal charges being laid, as well as court appearances, trial conclusions. Under the law, those involved may choose to transport the animals out of Hong Kong at their own expense, send the animals to a quarantine center for quarantine, or surrender custody of them. Upon receiving animals whose custody has been surrendered, AFCD immediately places them under quarantine, provides care and behavioral training so as to enhance the chances of adoption, and subsequently transfers suitable animals to the department's partner organizations for adoption arrangements. In 2025, 12 cats and dogs comprising 7 cats, 5 dogs were surrendered by the persons carrying the animals. Of these, 11 of them, that's 6 cats and 5 dogs, have been transferred to the department's partner animal welfare organizations for public adoption, while the remaining one is still under observation by AFCD. AFCD selects animals that are docile and in good health from among those abandoned or unclaimed and transfers them to partner animal welfare organizations for adoption by the public. Through the annual subvention scheme, AFCD provides financial support to these animal welfare organizations to implement publicity and education, provide adoption services, and undertake animal management work. In addition, AFCD utilizes multiple channels to set up public education and publicity to promote pet adoption, including broadcasting educational videos and APIs on various platforms, establishing a thematic website, distributing leaflets, posters, booklets, regularly organizing seminars in schools and estates, roving exhibitions across 18 districts, dog training courses, and pet adoption days, etc. Overall, to effectively combat illegal animal smuggling and trading, active cooperation from the public is crucial, in addition to rigorous enforcement by the government. Members of the public must remain vigilant, particularly when purchasing pets via online platforms, and be aware that illegal or unscrupulous traders may provide misleading information about pets in order to entice people to buy animals of unknown origin or in poor health. Consumers not only suffer financial losses, but often find it difficult to hold these traders legally accountable later on. Therefore, the government strongly advocates the principle of adoption rather than buying pets, encouraging the public to prioritize adoption through legitimate channels. If you choose to purchase a pet, then you should buy from licensed animal traders to avoid acquiring animals of unknown origins from unofficial channels. The government will continue to make good use of diverse channels such as social media, dedicated web pages, advertisements, to conduct public education with a view to enhancing public awareness of the relevant legislation, the associated risk, and thereby safeguarding the public and animal health. Dr. Gary Chan. President, if you just do a search online about transporting animals to Hong Kong, you will receive many messages about sending pets over to Hong Kong. And there is also this direct transport service to Hong Kong and Macau, and there'll be a dedicated one-stop service. Now, my colleague once asked about importing a puppy from Tianhai, Shenzhen to Hong Kong, it will take just $1,800 at the time and date specified. It's a door-to-door delivery. So my question for the Secretary is this: do you understand the situation? The problem is rampant at BCP such as Shenzhen Bay and Chongying Street. Does the government place priority on conducting checks and inspections to intercept such activities? Secretary, President, the Hong Kong government is aware of the situation, and let me explain with some examples. The CNED adopts a risk-based risk management approach in law enforcement actions. For example, at the inspection point at Chongqing Street, Sha Tao Kok, inspections of consignments are conducted. It also liaises closely with the relevant departments so as to enhance intelligence gathering and exchange and joint law enforcement action against illegal smuggling. When suspicious animal smuggling activities are involved, according to the procedures, the CNED will also refer the case to the mainland authorities as well. We also maintain close liaison and share intelligence with the counterpart in the mainland. We have joint operations to combat smuggling at the land BCPs. Take the Chongqing Street inspection point as an example. As you know, it is different from other controlled points. Permitted residents are allowed to go past this inspection point. In December 2024, the inspection point at Chongqing Street was relocated. And afterwards, we have CNED officers stationed at the inspection point round the clock, and every now and then they conduct joint operations with the AFCD to detect and prevent animal smuggling. As far as the police is concerned, there are also police officers stationed at Chongqing Street control point so as to ensure that individuals going past the control point are valid permit holders of FCAs. There are also joint operations. In 2025, 37 joint operations against illegal animal smuggling were conducted at the Chongqing Street inspection point involving the AFCD CNED. I will not go into the details. In 2026 is the first 5 months. The CNED and the AFCD also conducted 25 such joint operations. Now, in fact, since 2026, we have no longer identified any suspicious import and export of animals illegally. And I also mentioned this operation in Chongqing Street inspection point in collaboration with the CNED. But on top of that joint operation, we also have close collaboration with the CNED at Lok Ma Chau and Shenzhen Bay BCP to check for the smuggling of live animals into Hong Kong. In fact, on the 1st of June this year, we cracked down on a case, but in the interest of time, I'll spare you the details. Ms. Rebecca Chan. Well, thank you, President. According to the Secretary's main reply, for illegal sale of animals without a valid license, the maximum fine is one of $100,000. But like what Mr. Gary Chan said, when it comes to online purchase of pets, you can have door-to-door delivery. So there is no selling activities at in Hong Kong. So the crux of the matter is about importing pets. Now, they get a very good profit by smuggling cats and dogs. According to Cap 139A, for transport of animals without a valid license or permit, the maximum fine is just $50,000. But this kind of smuggling may lead to dire consequences, such as ill-treating of animals, rabies, and these could endanger lives, not to mention environmental hygiene problems. So I think you should make sure that there is sufficient deterrence, because at the moment it's just $50,000 of maximum fine and imprisonment for 1 year, whereas for selling of animals without license is $100,000 in imprisonment of 3 years. So we need to bring the penalty levels on a par with that, or say the cruel treatment of animals. Secretary, thank you, President. Thank you, Member. According to the rabies ordinance, kept 421, as well as the Public Health Animals and Birds Regulations CAP 139A, a permit or license is required for importing animals into Hong Kong. This is to prevent rabies from spreading in Hong Kong. So for those without the permit or license, the maximum fine is, like the member just said, $50,000 plus 1 year of imprisonment. The AFCD is of the view that this is sufficient deterrence. Now, of course, when the case is taken to the court may decide the actual level of fine or penalty based on the circumstances of the case. However, since public interest is at stake and there'll be a risk to animal health and public health as well, the AFCD will recommend a higher level of penalty to the court, and that in fact the maximum fine, according to the previous record, it's $15,000. Now, on cruel treatment of animals, the AFCD and the CNED have taken a risk-based approach and intelligence-led approach in mounting enforcement actions. In the past 3 years, we successfully prosecuted 6 individuals for committing cruelty to animals and smuggling of animals. Please keep your questions and answers short. Professor Chan Hak-kan, about online sale of animals, in how many cases the department failed to initiate prosecution for lack of evidence, and what is usually the problem? Has the government considered amending the relevant procedures so as to lower the evidence threshold required for prosecuting such crimes? Now, Secretary, thank you. As mentioned in the main reply, we detected 103 cases, and of which 65 cases resulted in successful prosecution. Let me share with you. In some cases, the facts are more complicated. There are also technical requirements such as a proof or a certificate issued by a vet, and only when it's proved that the dog is sick can we take the matter to the court. We follow some rigorous procedures, and we need to overcome these challenges. Mr. Stephen Ho, thank you, President. Ms. Chan's question was actually whether you enhance the penalty level to achieve greater deterrence. Now, at the panel, I followed up on Mr. Gary Chan's question, because animal smuggling does not only cause rabies, there are also other problems. And in fact, on one occasion, smuggling was carried out at sea, and the smuggler just hurled over 100 cats and dogs into the sea, and it's so cold-blooded. They should be strongly reprimanded. And then at Shuttlecock earlier, the government was able to crack down on a number of cases, but according to residents, there are tricks to avoid detection, such as using reflexive bags or putting the puppy inside a pot when crossing the inspection point. So there are ways to overcome detection. I know at the airport you have the detection dogs. You need to reallocate resources, because for these unscrupulous criminals, even if the cats and dogs are transported to Hong Kong, they may be put down in the end, for they have become sick. Secretary, now, as I have answered the member's question before, we will closely monitor the situation and conduct timely reviews on the legal provisions. Now, I skipped the details about Shuttlecock just now in the interest of time, but since you mentioned it, in 2025, we mounted 37 joint operations against animal smuggling. We cracked down on 5 cases of illegal import of animals and seized 13 animals. And upon investigation, we found that no syndicate was involved. All were individual cases. And starting from 2026, in 5 months, the CNED and AFCD mounted 25 anti-animal smuggling operations at the inspection point And according to our observation, since 2026, we have not detected any more suspicious acts of smuggling animals across the Chongying Street inspection point. Mr. Ronnie Chan, President, in order to combat illegal animal smuggling, the Undersecretary just now already explained that they relied on detection dogs. So that poses a heavier workload on the dogs. Will you increase the number of dogs in your fleet and deploy them at different BCPs so as to enhance your enforcement efforts? Secretary, thank you for the question. Apart from the CNED, the AFCD also maintains these detection dogs in our service, and we'll monitor the situation and conduct timely reviews so that resources can be deployed to support our enforcement action. Ms. Judy Chen, President, my first question is this. Supply comes with a demand. So, apart from tackling the sellers, we need to work on educating buyers. But on top of educating them, are there measures to deter them? Will there be penalties? Secretary, thank you, President. Thank you, member, for the question. As I said, we do have public education and publicity campaigns. And as I said in the main reply, we urge members of the public to remain vigilant when purchasing pets via online platforms and to be careful so as not to purchase animals of unknown origin or in poor health. In fact, according to legal advice, as a buyer, if you knowingly purchase a pet through unauthorized channels, then you cannot rely on the defense of having no knowledge. But of course, in terms of the burden of proof, this is still quite challenging. It's very difficult to prove that the person has engaged in an act, such an act, beyond reasonable doubt. So we're going to focus on enforcement at the control points to intercept the crimes.
Question 5.